Okay, so yes, we are live now. Hello, good evening, everyone. Thank you so much for joining the live session. So we will be starting in few minutes. So let's wait for others to join. And in the meanwhile, if you guys have any question, feel free to ask. So hi Manoj, hi Subhash. Good evening. Thank you so much for joining. I hope you guys have installed Cypress. Okay. So one comment from Nitin. Nitin says, I did practice everything yesterday and so far worked fine. Great, Nitin. So only the setup part is little tricky sometimes. Okay. Once it is done, now you can follow this code, or I will say the exercises that I will be providing, and you can start. And I guess Manoj also was facing some issue with Windows. So what happens actually, Manoj, the moment you open Cypress first time, okay, you will not face this issue again. It tries to verify a couple of things, whether installation is configured properly, all node modules are loaded properly or not. Once that is done, it will start Cypress. So sometimes this verification takes time, and if it is not loading within that period, right, then it actually will fail. So what we did yesterday through mail, we changed the time. So we increased the time and it started working. I will take one more minute because the camera battery is down. So I will just quickly connect the another battery and we'll resume the session. Okay. So guys, in the meanwhile, if you guys have any other question, please let me know. So Subhash says, hi Mukesh, yesterday I found one error while setting up the project. So Subhash, let me know what kind of issue did you face so that I can help you out. Okay, Shiva also says install properly. Okay, great. Neeraj, hello. See, Subhash, doesn't matter whether you install in D drive, C drive. It just needs one location where we can create the project and we can continue. Okay, so just guys, give me one more minute. Let me change the battery and we'll resume the session. Okay, so let's continue. Let me take one more question, then we'll start. I want to know Mocha config part. Hope you will be showing that today. Yes. So let's focus on the Cypress get command and other commands so that we can get started, Manoj. After that, we will be talking about the different configuration. Okay, now there are a couple of more questions by Meenakshi, Swati and Raghu. So I will be taking that questions. So let me just show you a quick PPT that we need before we start the session. Yeah. So this is a quick PPT for those who are completed due to chai. So before we start, audio video clear so that we can start. Can anybody confirm in the chat window? Any issues so far in the voice and the video? And can you see my screen as well? Okay, Meenakshi says, will you cover calendar file upload with window pop-up, Excel read write API testing, WDIO, WebDriver IO code, because it's our project requirement. I saw your free WebDriver IO tutorials from YouTube. Yes, Meenakshi. So API testing we're covering using Cypress. So API testing and Excel part is not added as part of WebDriver IO as of now, because already the course duration 5 to 6 months. But I can see if we have a time, then definitely I can cover that part as well. Now if you have that requirement immediately, then you can connect with me. I can help you if you have any issue, because we will start with JavaScript, then Cypress and Playwright. At the end we will cover WebDriver IO, which will be October, November actually. So if you have immediate requirement, let me know, we can connect. Okay, so now yesterday we just started with Mocha, right? So for Mocha also I have one quick PPT which I want to highlight. Anyways, we discussed this part, but let me go through the slide again. So yesterday we started with Mocha, but let me add few more points. So Mocha is a testing library as we discussed for Node.js, right? So using Mocha we can quickly write our scenarios, whether it's a unit test case, end-to-end test cases. We can do that with the help of Mocha. Now Node.js also have assert, Mocha also have assert, but you can leverage additional assert using chai library. But even if you don't like chai library for assertions, you can still use Mocha assertions in order to continue. But if you see, the Cypress have extensive support with chai library. It has a lot of things that you can verify on the fly, which anyways we will discuss today. Mocha also will provide you hooks. So just like any other testing framework like TestNG, we have before suite, before class, before test, before method, right? Here also we have before each and before, after each and after. So basically this is a kind of a precondition and post conditions that we write within our test, right? So let's say you need to do you want to load the URL, you want to load the fixtures, you want to set up some connectivity, right? So you will be using these hooks once you move ahead. So once you create framework, you will be using these hooks very often. So now quick difference between before and before each. So suppose you are writing multiple tests, right? In your yesterday we have written 4 tests in one test suite. So before will basically runs one before running all the test cases, and before each will run before every test. So before will, suppose if you have 4 test cases, before will run once and after will run once all the test cases are done. But before each and after each, it will run after every test case. So that is the hooks. Anyways, we will be discussing hooks in detail once you move ahead. But as of now, just stick to the theory part. This is just now I discuss. Now this is what we did yesterday. I have written a describe function, right, which is a block which was representing our test suite. So this describe takes 2 arguments. One is nothing but a string, which is actually the test suite name, and the second takes the callback function where you can write multiple test cases. So string callback function where you will be writing multiple test cases, and it function, which is it block again. that define a test case. It also takes two arguments, one string argument which will represent your test case name, another will be your callback function. I'm going through the slides very quickly because this is what we did already yesterday. And this is exactly what we did. We have created a describe, right? Then we have written two test cases. In this example too, but yesterday actually we wrote 4 test cases. So again, string, which is nothing but a test case name, and the second is callback function. So this also I discussed that if you don't want to use function, you can go with the arrow functions. Okay, so instead of writing function and pair of parentheses, you can use arrow function. And this also we discuss it without any body, it with body, it dot only, and it dot skip. Now this is what we will start. Now why do we need any additional library? That is the basic question comes into the mind, right? That we already have assert in Node, we already have assert in Mocha, then why we need? Chai will give you multiple ways to assert. Okay, you will get to know within few seconds that Chai also provides you 3 different flavors. How do you want to write your assert? You can use expect, you can use assert, you can also use should. So should we will be using throughout the session because this is more readable and it makes more sense to use should. Assert and expect, this is a little technical, not in terms of functionality, but while reading, should makes more sense. That you will get to know now once we move ahead. So let's take one example. It's not a very technical example, just one example which I want to highlight so that you will get an idea. Take one example that I have taken a string, let's say Cypress. Now I want to check Cypress is the Cypress keyword or the string that I have written is actually a string, or is it a number, or is it a boolean or object. So if you go with the first assert example, we can write assert dot type of. Here we can pass the variable which is name, and in the second argument we can provide the type. We'll check is the Cypress is equal to string. If yes, it will pass, otherwise it will fail. Same thing what we did using assert. Now you can use expect as well, but obviously the syntax will be different. This time it will be expect name dot to dot b dot a string. This is more readable as compared to assert, that expect whatever name we are giving Cypress is to be a string. And the last one, which is using should, name which is the variable, should be a string. So in terms of readability, should is more readable, like how we are verifying, right? It should be equal to this, it should be enabled, it should be disabled, it should exist, it should contains, it should be this. So multiple things that you can do along with Cypress using this should. So depends what you want to do. At the end of the day, we will be doing only assertions. Some examples which we will be using today. So today we will be talking about this get method, which is actually a command in Cypress, which will help you to find element. Suppose I found one element, now I want to put assertions. Action is different, whether you will do type, click, check, unchecked, select, drop down, that's a different part. But if you focus on the assertion part, we can write it should be visible, not be visible, b dot enable, not dot b dot enable, should be disabled, should not be disabled, should be checked, should not be checked. It should contain a class like this, it should not contain class like this. It should exit, it should not exit, it should have a value, should not have a value, it should have a text, should not have a text, should have a length, should not have a length, should have an attribute, include, contains, lot of things that you can do with should, and it will come as a auto population. You don't have to remember all of this. I will show you now. It will come as an auto suggestion. Just select these values from these options and you can put assertions. Very easy. And all these examples which I am giving you, I will try to give this PPT in a PDF format, or maybe I will create a cheat sheet and I will provide to you. What if you want to have multiple assertions? For example, I want to check that element should have a class called active. It should also have attribute called href. It should also have one keyword. It should include cypress.io. So you can have multiple assertions using and should. You can also have should, you can say should.end.end as well. Now let me show you. some very important command. But before we move to the command, see now the moment I type cy is a global object that we will be using throughout our Cypress series, which will help you to get the Cypress command. Even if you want to type, even if you want to find element, even if you want to make an API request, everything will start from cy. Now I'm not getting any suggestions, right? If you see, I'm getting crypto key, all the existing things, but I'm not getting cy. You need to configure it. So if you worked with any other automation tool, we used to get auto suggestion. So let's do this auto suggestion configuration part. For this, I will open Cypress official website, and if you go to the documentation, and if I go to the tooling IDE integration, just search for one thing, intelligent code completion. We need this actually, right? So that I can get this IntelliSense. So this can be done at two levels. One at the file level. Suppose I'm writing one test file trail or spec file. I want auto suggestion only for this spec file. I can do that. Other option is throughout the project I can make a configuration that whatever test I will be writing or whatever spec file I will be writing, I need this IntelliSense. So I will go with the second approach. In the first approach, you just need to copy these / directive, and you have to add in your file. Okay, let me do one thing. Let me create one fresh file. I will say login.cy.js, and I will just add this references types equal to Cypress. Now if I continue with my describe, let's say my first login test, and I can also use it will represent my test case. So I will say login with valid credential. Okay, now again you can use arrow function, curly bracket open and close. Now if you put mouse over on describe, it will actually tell you what is describe. Can you see it says describe a test suite with a given title and a callback function which contains nested suite. And if you put mouse over on it, it says describe a specification or test case with a given title and of course a callback function. Now if you go back to yesterday, now it is also highlighting here as well. So now in the same way, if I just type cy, can you see I'm getting one global variable? It says cy is a global variable added by Cypress with all the API commands. This kind of documentation you will get the moment you add this / directive. But if you want to make these changes at the project level, just go back here and let's follow the documentation. We need to create one config, basically one jsconfig.json file, and we need to include this. So I would prefer this one. Copy this, go back to your Visual Code, okay, and create a file jsconfig.json file. So it's creating inside my E2E. I will drag and drop and I will keep in my project root directory, and let me copy this. Now you don't have to add to this / directive for each and every spec file. Now it is applicable throughout your project. If I put now cy dot, can you see all the commands? So all these are technically methods, but in terms of Cypress we'll call them as a command. Can you see each is also a method. If I type visit is also a method, but we will call them as a command. So whatever terminology you want to call it. Now in order to continue, we need at least the first command which we can use to load our web application. Whatever web application you want to automate, you will be using visit, and here you can see the proper documentation. What are the things you can pass? The URL to visit, and if relatives, use base URL. Now what does it mean, base URL? So it says pass the URL whatever you want to automate, but if you are taking reference from the configuration file, which we will do probably today or tomorrow, I can set up this base URL in my config file and I can reference that. And if you click on this, Okay, it's opening documentation here. Let me drag and drop here. Just a second. Where's that? Yeah, visit. So this is the technical documentation of visit. So it says visit a remote URL, and they have given the different syntaxes. So you can pass the URL, you can pass the URL with options, or you can pass the options directly. And can you see the beautiful description how you can use it? The first one is saying if you have given the base URL, just use // and it will take the base URL. If you have base URL and you want to navigate to sub pages, you can also provide index.html. And if you have full URL, this is what we will do today. And once we move ahead, we will be doing API testing as well. So you can provide the methods here: get, post, put, pass, delete, and so on. So let me load one application that we are planning to automate. Again, guys, you can take any example. Okay, I'm using same orange HRM. Let me copy and paste here. Now, good part here is, let me run this first. So if I just open my runner, okay, I need to go back here. This is what we created, right? 6 seconds ago. Let me click on login. It should load that open source demo orange HRM, and here we go. Yeah, it's loaded, and we can continue now. Right now it's taking this Chrome, but in case if you want to change the browser, you can do that. Most important part, if you see this, right now it's taking the viewport, which is screen what should be the width, what should be the height of the page. By default it's taking 100660, but if you want, let's say 1920 180p, or if you want, let's say 330 660 or 660 330, if you have this kind of scenarios where you want to test with different width and height, you can pass it. Okay. That also I have noted here, I guess, in my PPT. If I show you that PPT, just a second. Yeah. This visit command just now I showed you, right? Here I want to highlight one more part, that you can also pass the timeout. Now, what is this timeout? Anybody guesses? Any guesses on this? What is timeout here? Guys, just a small request. I can see a lot of spam again. Can you please report this? Okay, any guesses, guys? What is timeout here? Exactly, Nitin says time taken to load the web. Correct. So by default, okay, the Cypress tried to launch this application. By default time is 60 seconds, okay, 60,000 milliseconds, which you can override in the settings, but by default it takes 60 seconds. Within 60 seconds, if it doesn't load, it will fail. But let's say your application is taking more time, and if you want to override, you can do that here as well. So just after the visit, you can pass the timeout here, and it will continue. So 1000 is 1 second. This is just one example I have taken, but let's say it takes 2 minutes or 3 minutes, you can change it. Or let's say you want to be very specific that my application should load within 5 seconds or maybe 10 seconds. You can do that. If it is not loading within that time period, it will fail. Now this is the viewport. By default, as I told you, right, it's taking 1000. Let me check here. 1660. But if you want to change the viewport, you can do that. So viewport will basically represent the size on the and the orientation of your screen. Suppose I want to change the width and height, I can do that. So 1921 ATP. Now, very important part here, Cypress have already provided couple of preset. Okay, preset means they have a fixed width and height. So let's say you want to see here how your application will look like in Samsung phone, let's say in iPad, or maybe you have a different screen resolution and you want to check, you can pass here. So that we will do using Viewport. So in case if you want, you can do that. Just say cy.viewport, control the size, and yeah, open this documentation here. And the preset which I was talking about, right? So see, iPad 2, iPad mini, iPhone 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, MacBook 11, 13, 15, and so on. Basically, these are preset, like they have a fixed width and height. But let's say I want to check with a specific width and height, I can do that. For example, I want to try with this 1366 Viewport, 1376, and let's say I want 768. Save this, come back here. Can you see it changed the resolution? Initially it was 1660, now it changed. Now it is looking how it will look like in MacBook 11. So if you don't want to pass, you can pass this string as well. For example, I want to pass here this preset directly. See the list of options that we are getting. So whatever we have in the documentation, you can pass here. Let me pass MacBook 15. Save this, come back here, auto trigger, and yeah, it changed. So this is how you can control the viewport. Now comes back to the PPT again. If you want to change the orientation, okay, landscape, portrait, you can pass this. So this I will give you as part of assignment. Try to pass the orientation, landscape, and portrait, and see how your application is loading. Okay, what is the view of your application. Now, very important command, which is get, which will help you to find element on the web page. And once the element is loaded, you can continue with type activity, click activity, and so on. Okay, so I will come back to this PPT, but let me start writing our first test. Let me take orange HRM. Now let me right click on this. Let's say I want to log in. But let's say maybe before doing the login part, I want to verify couple of things. I want to verify the title. I want to verify the URL. I want to verify whether I'm landing to the right page or not. So before even interacting, you can capture the URL, capture the title, and you can put assertion. For example, I want to just check the title. So I will just say title. Can you see it's a separate command? And now the moment I put dot, I can use now should, right? Can you see this? It's create an assertion. Assertions are automatically retried until they pass or timeout. So basically it will keep on waiting until this title is not coming. Okay, if the timeout expire, obviously it will fail, but within that time, if this promise is getting resolved, it will verify the title. So let's say I want to verify the title. So just after should, if I put double quotes, can you see the different things that we can verify? See, whether it's not a number, be a above, and be called, be above, below, and here I have something called contains. I want to check the title should contain, this is my title, right? Orange HRM. I just want to see HRM is available or not. The moment I save this, come back here. Can you see? The moment I add assert showing in a green color, it means your test have at least one assertion. And if you try to see, it says expected orange HRM to include HRM, and yes, it includes. In the same way, if I give, does this title contains Mukesh, save this, come back. Now, can you see? It failed, which was obvious because title does not contain Mukesh. But if you try to see this part, it says assertion error, timeout retrying after 4000 milliseconds. This was the main part I want to highlight. by default, Cypress waits 4 seconds for each and every command, obviously, which you can change. Let's say you want to wait, the title should load after, like, wait till 60 seconds. Within 60, if the title is not loading, fail the URL part or whatever command. So by default, each and every command takes 4000 milliseconds, which is 4 seconds wait, and it's a smart wait, like within 4 seconds it comes, move on, otherwise max is 4000 millisecond, 4 seconds. So I will change it back to HRM. Can I have multiple assertions? Let's say if I say again capture the title, and if I say should, now I can also use EQ. Okay, here I can put the orange HRM and I can run and just see. And yes, so I can use contains, which is basically include, and I can also check the exact title. This is used for the title. In the same way, you can do for the URL as well. For example, my URL, I want to see whether URL contains demo or not. Maybe I want to verify that URL contains hrmlive.com, whatever your test demands, we can do that. For example, maybe I want to see the URL, so I will say cy.url, it captures the current URL, right? And now I can say dot should, again put double quotes. See the advantage of having this documentation, you will get snippet as well, you will get the what exactly it does. So tomorrow, let's say if I'm not here, maybe you want to explore for more methods what Cypress provide. Now put mouse over, get the documentation. Again I will check contains, it contains demo or not. Save this, come back, and yes, it passed. If I check here again, does it contains Mukesh? No. So if I run this test, 2 assertions successful, but the third one will fail, which was expected. So I can make it contains demo again. And yes, 3 assertion passed. Okay, is it clear to all of you the basic command? So visit, then viewport, and then we are capturing title, URL, and when on the fly we are putting assertion as well. Is this clear to everyone before we move to get command? Please give me a quick confirmation in the chat window. Now this is very important part, guys, because what happens the moment you log in, let's say you want to verify whether you landed to the logout page, dashboard page or not. Maybe you logged out, and after logout you want to check that you went back to the login page or not. So this capturing title URL helps a lot to put validations. So I would highly recommend to add these basic assertions as well. Now let's continue with how to interact. Now you can use one command called get, and if you see, it says get one or more DOM elements by node name, and they have given a very good documentation again how you can use it. So you can use selector. Okay, so by default it supports CSS selectors. You can actually pass the tag name as well, which is not encouraged actually. So it supports CSS selectors, and you can also write XPath. Cypress also supports XPath, but using a plugin. By default CSS, but if you want to use XPath, yes, possible, but we will be installing one Cypress XPath plugin. You will add in the command, in the support package, and then you can start using it. And they have given example how you can use it. This is very, very important, guys, which is called options. Many people don't put much time on reading the option because different options, because it's optional, but it's important. So here you can see the most important part, timeout. The time to wait for cy.get to resolve before timing out. Okay, so suppose my element, by default it takes 4 seconds, right? But my element is coming after 10 seconds, or maybe my element is coming after 20 seconds. So for that particular get command, I can pass additional timeout. Now if you're coming from a Selenium or from any other tool, we used to provide the explicit wait, right? We used to write a WebDriver wait or Fluent wait, but here you can, for one specific command, you can add timeout. For this, I want to use a 10 second, 20 second. This is also very important, which is include shadow DOM. So if your application have shadow DOM, then you can use this option as well. And they have given how you can start interacting and put assertion if needed. Let me show you this. So let's say I want to use, I want to automate this application. I will inspect, and this particular web element have a ID, have a name. Let me go with ID. So how we use ID in CSS, I will use hash and the ID, and let me do one command called type. So it type into the DOM element, and if you see the documentation, so here itself you can do multiple things. You can actually also provide the keyboard events. Let's say you want to hit enter using type, you can do that. See, yeah, they have given a sequence that you can use. Along with that, we also have something called force. I will talk about force as well. See, beautiful documentation. Let me type, but before type, let me add one assertion, optional but good to have, be enabled, or let me just first do type what we want to type. Let's say I want to type admin. Now the next thing, this is my password field. See guys, I'm assuming since this is little, we are directly starting with Cypress, I'm assuming that you should have some understanding of CSS selectors and XPath. If you don't have, I would recommend you to watch my previous videos where we discussed already in detail. Even in my last Selenium community sessions, we did dedicated session on XPath and CSS selector. If I use this ID again, I can use cy.get. Again, I can put hash. So you can use single quotes or double quotes, both are supported in JavaScript. So that's fine. I can continue with type again and say admin 123. And if I have to log in, again I will inspect. See, this also have a class now, right? So type name ID. So if I have to use class, how to use class in CSS selectors? Dot class name, and I can say dot click. Okay, let me save this file and let me run this. So maybe I will just open this. This is one, yeah. Save this and come back here. Here we go. It actually typed, right? So admin 123 typed, but it says invalid. Maybe the application has some issue right now. Let me try manually. Admin 123 and click on login. Okay, so this application has some issues right now, so that's the reason it is not able to show you the dashboard, but it actually did all the type and click. And now I will show you how to read this part. Okay, is this clear? Let me read couple of messages. Okay, Manoj says waiting for web page. Yes. Wait time, yes. Is it explicit wait? So Hardik, we don't actually call them as a explicit. We don't have any terminology as such, but yes, it actually waits for the page load. But when you say driver dot, I'm saying driver dot get, cy dot get, here also we can pass the timeouts. For that particular elements, you can consider as a similar what we used to do in Selenium, but for page load, it's just a page load timeout. But here for the elements, you can say explicitly we are giving that wait for this particular time. Okay, Akash says wish all the success, bro. You're inspiring many life. Thank you so much, Akash. Vikrant says, hi Mukesh, could you please clarify your Cypress course will framework, the framework which I'm going to, you are going to cover, will teach the design pattern to related to Cypress UI automation. Vikrant, we will be using only one design pattern, page object model with Cypress. Subhash says, can you please show me how to use XPath in Cypress? Yes, Subhash, maybe you have to wait for tomorrow's session. Tomorrow we'll discuss about how to download, how to use any specific plugin in Cypress, how to configure that. Now, if you just go back to this panel, this assertion we did, right? Now, notice guys, the moment I put mouse over on get, can you see on the right hand side? In the left hand side, you have your panel. On the right hand side, you can see the application preview. The moment I put mouse over on get, it is highlighting that username. Now, this is very important. The moment I put mouse on type, on the right panel, just see it's blinking before, after, before, after. So before, what was the state? After, what is the state? Just notice here, and you can see the red blink, it's coming automatically. So tomorrow, let's say some events are not happening, maybe the click is not happening properly. This will actually give you more clarity that it did not click on the actual element. Maybe it clicked on the top left, top right, and so on. Same thing it shows for password. Put mouse over on type, again notice before, after, before, after. And you can actually pin. So let's say I want to see what happened with the password field. You just need to click here, line number 12. And now you can see before, after, before, after. And if you don't want this pinned, you can remove it. Similar way, this button and click. So after the click, it should load to the next page, which is not happening. So after is not showing, and it is actually waiting for the page to load. Since we are coming back to the same page, it's showing the same page now. Okay, so Priya says, Mukesh, can you please teach us wait until in Cypress? Yes, Priya, I can do that, but let's understand the default assertions that we have. And once these guys are familiar, then we can talk about wait until. Vikrant says, during the live session, we can ask question or end or class. See, Vikrant, in the live sessions, we will be having just like what we are having now on the YouTube live, right? So all the classes will be on Zoom. So you can post your questions. Once I'm done with a specific topic, I will look at the chat section. I will reply and come back. And once the session is over, I can take the general Q&A as well. Okay, so I hope it is clear. Manoj says, can we input the login credential without hard coding? So Manoj, once you move ahead, you can actually put this username, password, all the test data in a fixture file, which is a JSON file, and you can load that from the JSON file, which is called fixtures here. Now, I was expecting one question from all of you, but nobody have asked that how this Cypress will decide that button is enabled or visible or clickable. So Cypress have some default assertion, like in other automation frameworks, we write this explicit conditions, right? Should be enabled, should be displayed, should be this. But Cypress what does? Okay, just come back here. Maybe I will show you. Just type Cypress default assertions. Okay, just come back here. Yeah, this part. Yeah, actionable state. Can you see? Checks and actions performed. Now before working with web elements, Cypress automatically checks. First of all, it should be scrolled into the, like suppose if you have a scroller, so it checks whether it should be into the view before doing any operation. Element should not be hidden, element should not be disabled, it should not be detached modes. And detached mode, let's say right now you have one web element, if the page reloads, right, so sometime it get detached, so it says it should not be detached, it should not be read only, it should not be animating, it means some animations are going on, so it should not be animating, maybe fade in, fade out. So during this animation it will stop, so it should not be animating, because let's say this animation is happening, slider is happening, or fade in, fade out. So if that element is animating, it will stop, it will wait. It should not be covered, let's say input button is there and some other element is coming on top of this, so it makes sure that nothing is covering on top of that element. Scroll the page if still covered by an element with a fixed position. Okay, it means make sure it should be in a proper XY coordinate so that it can perform action. And the last, fire an event at the desired coordinate, so it also see the coordinates. See, these are the things by default it checks before doing any operation. Technically we call Cypress wait for element to be in an actionable state. In order to call as an actionable state, Cypress automatically checks these conditions. Once all conditions are done, then it will go with click, then it will go with type, and whatever method you will be calling. You can see whenever Cypress cannot interact with an element, it could fail at any above steps. You will usually get an error and it will explain you why the element was not found in an actionable state. This is a beautiful part which got added not only with Cypress, this is also covered in Playwright as well. It makes sure everything is covered before interacting. So if you see this part, if you try to do type, before that make sure the element should be in actionable state. Clear? Please give me quick information, guys, because the next thing that I will do will be little not, I will say, advanced part, but for that you need to understand these basics. Lokesh is asking, Mukesh, are we getting APIs also in Cypress? Yes, we are covering API testing, not extensively, but I will give you a fair idea how you can automate APIs using Cypress. Shiva says, can we run Cypress two different browsers at the same time? See, while developing the script, you can only develop in one, okay, and you can execute. But the moment you start working with Cypress CLI, then you can run your test cases with different browsers as well. Vikrant says, I'm definitely going to enroll this course. Just last question, will we get any sort of notes, recorded videos? See, Vikrant, you will get all the code snippet that I will be covering, plus whatever links I'm showing you, I can make a note and I can send. Apart from that, assignments also you will get, plus the videos lifetime access. Now Cypress also comes, okay, with Cyprus Inspector. So as you can see, okay, this is one inspector. The moment I click here, and let's say if I put on this username, you can see it is giving me one code snippet, right? And it has all one drop down where I can use contains as well. So contains is basically you can find element using text as well. So in get you have to pass the selector, but if you use cy.contains, if you have a text, you can do that. So let's say I want to again interact with this username. You can see this option, copy to clipboard. I can copy and paste it here, and then you can type. See, automatically it has detected that it has a proper ID and it is allowing us to copy from the clipboard. Now I can continue again. cy.get, if you don't want, go back, click here, inspect this password field, This is, come on, wait. See, it is taking one data left attribute, but I want, maybe I can, let me open this and try. See, this time it took ID. Again, I can copy, come back and type. So this inspector is smart enough. Okay, when I say smart, it checks whether your DOM have ID class. If have some data ID, let's say data -cy, test data ID something, it will see accordingly which locator is best for you, and it will give you that sample. You can copy and continue. Okay, for the time being, I will not be able to add assertion because this demo application is not working. Let me try running again. Yeah, still this is not working. That's fine. I will give you another application, or if you have any other application that you are using, you can start automating. Let me write one more test. This time I'm not changing the viewport, let it be. And let me show you contains as well. Show you, let's say I want to click on this forget your password. So if I say cy dot, I also have something called contains. So it says get the DOM element containing the text. So if I use forget your password, and if I say dot click, you can do that. So whether you give partial or you give the exact, it will work. In this case, I'm giving full. If I come back here and execute, first test executed. In the second test, see, this is contains and this is getting highlighted. The moment I click, this page is getting loaded, which is forget a password. And if I go back to my previous test, it is showing me what happened here when we did type click. So this is also like recently one guy was attending interview, and the question was, what is the difference between get, find and contains? Okay, so once you move ahead, you will also understand about find, but because ultimately this also find, but it actually get the descendant DOM element of a specific selector. Okay, get, contains, find, all are different. So once you move ahead, you will get the usage of find. Now there are a couple of assertions you can add. Let's say before this is an explicit assertion. Okay, one assertion which Cypress takes care that action, your element should be in X enable state, right? Should be enabled, should be visible, should be scroll, etc. But if you want to add your own assertion, you can do that. Should dot should be visible, be enabled, exist, and so on. So let's say I want to see after typing this admin, I want to just see whether it has actually typed admin or it maybe typed something else. So I can say have dot value. Let me give positive assertion. After typing admin, I'm checking is admin typed correctly or not. Same thing I can add here as well. It should also have a value called admin123. Okay, after click you can add one more assertion that successful login should get a dashboard. Come back here, not this one. See, this is assertion. So first it did the type, then it is also verifying admin is entered properly, admin123 is admin properly or not. Along with that, you can add assertions, clickable, visible, etc. If I show you one application where until you don't enter the username password, it should be disabled. That is one of the assertion, right? But the moment you type admin username password, button should be enabled. So that is also assertion possible. Without entering, it should be disabled. After entering, it should be enabled. Okay, so it's 7:23. If I take the next part, it will take 15-20 minutes. But let me give you one quick assignment which you guys can try. After successful login, you need to add assertion that login is successful using title or using URL. This I will give you as part of the assignment. Now if you see in both these test cases, something is common, right, which is cy.visit. Now I can use here now hooks, which is coming from Mocha, that before loading the test, the actual test cases, make sure the URL is loaded correctly. Here comes your hooks. So if I just go here, type describe, not describe, sorry, before, can you see this? Before each, execute before each test case. And since it's coming from Mocha, this is the documentation. So before all, before each. Here we have before and before each, after and after each, and what is the type, what attributes, and what is the description. Okay, now let me see a couple of chats. Priya says clear, Ashwini says clear. Okay, great. Manu says clear. At the time of pop-up screen, how to handle? See, Lokesh, now when you say pop-up, you have to be very specific, because if you have a normal pop-up like React pop-up, okay, which is nothing but one overlay, it can handle easily. But if you have a prompt which is coming from JavaScript, okay, then we need to use a little different thing here, because Cypress can capture this, all the events, whether it's alert, whether it's a prompt, whether it's a confirm box. For that we have to use cypress.on, and you can handle these events. Now let's end the session, but before we end the session, I want to quickly highlight two additional plugins that I have installed, which is making my life easy. So if you see all these beautiful plugins, right, which I'm getting here, the cy.js for node modules, you're getting a very beautiful icon for cy, for js, for configuration. So let's say if I create one sample dot java file, can you see one coffee mug, maybe some mug, tea for or coffee? But how it is coming, because I installed one plugin which I will show you. Apart from that, all these auto suggestions which I'm getting, let's say describe. If I say describe and it actually created my test suite and the test case. So how I'm getting this auto suggestion? This is also coming through one plugin. So please install these two plugins, very handy and very useful. So come back here. You can see I have installed two plugins. The first plugin is ES6 Mocha snippet. So if I show you this part, see all these auto suggestions which I'm getting right here. Can you see? It's coming from because I have used this plugin. How to download this plugin? Simply search here ES6 Mocha snippet. Okay, I already have, so it's installed here, but this is how you can search. Okay, I'm getting uninstalled because I already installed. In your case, it will be install and just reload your Visual Code. Similar way, if I show you the other extension, it's called Material Icon Theme. It just adds some UI part here. Can you see all these icons? This will automatically comes the moment you add extension. Huge list. So just if you have jar, it will show you like this. If you have a PDF file, Jenkins or JS config file. Fine, so try this plugin. The second one is optional, but good to have. I like this UI part, but if you don't want, you can still continue, but please install this Mocha snippet. And let me delete this. So take this as assignment. Tomorrow we'll continue. Tomorrow we'll talk about how to capture the error messages, how to run on the different browsers, how to change the configuration files, and so on. Okay, take this as part of assignment. So that's all from my side. Now let me take few questions and let me know how was the session today. Did you learn anything new? Are you finding Cypress little tricky, or are you finding easy? And what are the features you're liking about Cypress? See, this was the question coming, right? Do we have to learn JavaScript for that? We are able to use commands, but how it is happening behind the scene? So once you move ahead, you will be writing your custom conditions. That time we need JavaScript. As of now, commands are available. Just say type, click, assertions, continue. But later on, you will be using JavaScript to perform some loops. Okay, some, let's say I have auto suggestions, calendar controls, or non-select drop downs, right? In that case, we need. Today we did not discuss about radio button checkboxes drop down. Tomorrow we'll talk about the complete scenario. Okay, and one more thing that I want to add here, assertion, that this is also part of your assignment. Add assertion that button should be enabled. It's already enabled, but yeah, just for your exercise I have added. Okay, so Manoj have one question. If any error comes at the time of background check from Cypress, how to handle it, proceed? See Manoj, if any of the assertion, like I told you actionable state, right? If any of these conditions fails, it will fail. So that is how Cypress has been designed. But let's say if you want to forcefully do something, that is available. For example, if button is disabled and you still want to forcefully click it, there's one more option called force true. By default it's set to false. So if I show you this part, okay, in the documentation I will show you. So if you just open this click, it's opening here, just a second. See, this click have many options, right? Suppose if you want to perform alt click, so it is possible. If you want to say control click, that is possible. See, this is force. Force is one of the option. It is set to false. Force the action, disable waiting for actionability. Now you got this point, right? So suppose you want to skip this part. You don't want to wait for all this condition. So if you say force true, it will forcefully do that operation. Maybe click or whatever actions you have. And how do you use that? I will show you anyways tomorrow, but this is how you can use it. Force true. That's all. Even if that button is disabled, it will try to do it forcefully. Okay, let's say if you want to provide some timeout, let's say for this particular button I want to wait maybe 10 seconds. Okay, 10,000. So this is how you can pass. If you are finding little difficult, you can make it like this. Okay, it's all allowed. So I'm using timeout here, and timeout means by default 4 seconds, but I changed. Instead of 4, I want to say 10,000 milliseconds, which is 10 seconds. Okay, is it clear, Manoj? Rajesh joined late. Hi Rajesh. Manoj says, without having mocha plugin, can we write all this code? Yes, Manoj, why not? It will make your task easy. Even if you don't do this or IntelliSense what we did today with Cypress, still you can do that, right? It is just giving you options that these are the commands you have. This is the documentation. So the snippet which I have downloaded, ES6 mocha snippet, it is giving you a snippet. Pramod says Cypress is completely free as protector or paid version. So Cypress have one dashboard service. If you want to use the dashboard service, then yes, you have to pay a small fee. But apart from that, everything is free. For dashboard, it's paid. Apart from dashboard, everything is free. Nitin says Cypress is indeed looks more user friendly than Selenium. Yes, obviously Nitin, because they have given a lot of time traversing, which I like a lot. Like you can put mouse over and see what happened before, after. Each and everything you can see on the panel. So it makes debugging a little easy. So you can also use pause, you can also use debug, cy.b debug, cy.pause. It can it will add a lot of value when you debug. So flaky tests are very less here because already things are taken care. But if you want to do anything externally, yes. So UI was, I totally agree. Priya also says same thing. Cypress is very easy as compared to Selenium. Yes, I totally agree, except few limitations. So Priya, yesterday we discussed about few limitations of Cypress. Okay, so if you go to the future roadmap of Cypress, they are trying to fix it as soon as possible. So in case if you guys want to see, just type Cypress roadmap. See how you can see. So iframe support still work in progress. So they already have issue here, but rest everything. Can you see this component testing? So this is the pull request, and they released in actually Cypress 10. So if you see, the moment you start Cypress, end-to-end testing and component, right? So component testing already released. There are a couple of experimental features like session API. They added from 8.2.0. This was very much needed, which was visit multiple origin. They got they added from 9.6.0. So suppose you have one application, the moment you click on login, it loads google.com, github.com, facebook.com, Twitter. So what Cypress does right now, if you are going to the different origin, it will fail. Suppose in one test, if I log in Google, Facebook, it will not allow. Okay, I can do in the other test. So if you have this kind of requirement where you have to log in with Facebook, Twitter, or any other thing, so you are actually going from one origin to another origin, right? So initially this was not supported, but after 9.6.0, you can do that using cy.origin. Okay, just open this method and see. So WebKit support, obviously if you have to do with Safari, then this was needed. iframe support, work in progress. And but they have given alternative as well, guys, which I actually liked. If you come down here, they have actually told that what is the issue, how it will look like in future. They're giving exactly how it will come in future. They might release this switch to frame. This is the workaround they have given right now, but obviously workaround is always workaround. So see, in terms of clarity, they have given everything roadmap, what they are releasing, right? So if you open this 10.0.0, in the change log, you will get to know what they did in 10.3.0, 10.2.0, 1.0, and so on. So highly recommended. Now, a lot of questions. Let me see how many I can take it right now. Shiva says, is it difficult? What is the difficult part of Cypress? Do you have any reports? Yes, reports part, Shiva, we have report part anyways we'll cover tomorrow, so just wait. So we have a Mocha awesome report. Again, no need to write any code. It's coming as a plugin. Configure the plugin, report will be generated. Automatically, it will add the screenshot also if the test is getting failed. You can change the title, you can change the date, time, format, everything you can do that. Again, just a configuration change. Difficult part of Cypress. See, Shiva, the thing is difficult part with Cypress. One is the tab and handling. We have again workaround. For frames also we have workaround. So things are little difficult only with this part when you're changing your origin, frame support, or multiple tab or Windows handling, but we have workaround. So difficult part is sometimes you might feel little complicated when it comes to promises, interacting with async, sync and async, right? But not that difficult. So in terms of difficulty, you can ask what is the limitation. Limitations we discussed yesterday. Nitish says, hey Mukesh, right now I'm very confused which one to start with, data science or automation testing. I'm about to start my career, so what's your opinion? See Nitish, I'm not the right guy for data science, but if you need to discuss. Automation anyways I can guide, but data science I would recommend check out the Krish Naik channel. He has more than 6 lakh subscriber plus 1500 videos on data science. Not only data science, data analytics, machine learning, AI. So check out his channel once. But yeah, you need to be very focused because both are totally different. And if you, let's say, choose data science, it takes a year at least. With automation also, it will take minimum 6 months to 1 year. So decide carefully and then you can start with one. Manoj says comments were very handy, but yeah, commands are very easy, plus this auto suggestions a great help. The code structure described, it seems to be similar with RSpec, Ruby, the way of coding. Okay, Wasim, I've never worked with Ruby, so not sure, but could be. Rahul says, should we use page object model and cucumber model via Cypress? So Cypress supports cucumber. Yes, you can do that. Now, Rahul, if you go through the documentation, right, what Cypress says, page object model, they don't encourage, because they say it's you're creating a class, creating a methods, exporting, like you have locators and the methods. This is what we do in page object model. So they don't encourage much, but we can do that page object model with Cypress. How much JavaScript in depth needed for Cypress? See, again, I want to highlight one thing. Rahul, don't think that JavaScript only for Cypress perspective. You might learn Cypress with a small knowledge of JavaScript. But what if you have to do some extra activity apart from Cypress? You need JavaScript knowledge, right? It's very handy, Rahul, frankly speaking. If you start learning through my YouTube channel or maybe any other channel, you will get to know so much functionality which JavaScript provides. So learn JavaScript like a language. Don't think only you will be using with Cypress. Okay, let's say if you are downloading any file, for example, it is coming out of your browser. Obviously now you will lose the control. So let's say now you want to do something from JavaScript. Okay, in that case, how you will do it? So there's so many things which needs JavaScript knowledge. So don't only learn for JavaScript because Cypress. In Cypress you might need less, but again in Playwright you need, in WebDriver you need. Priya says, Mukesh, is it possible for you to tell what are the things you will cover in tomorrow's session? Yes, Priya. So tomorrow we'll talk about how to use XPath with Cypress. So we will be using one plugin for that. How to generate report with Cypress. For that also we will use plugin. We will also take multiple examples. Like tomorrow I will talk about how to deal with multiple elements. Right now we just have one element, we are able to do type click. But what if we have multiple web elements? How to get the first, how to get the last, how to get the specific element? What are the different options we have for operations? Apart from that, we will see a complete page where we will create a sign up page, like we'll try to fill a sign up page, first name, last name, radio button, check boxes. You will get one end-to-end flow. Then if time permits, tomorrow I will also talk about how you can run your test from CLI. If not, that will be covered in Friday session. Nitin says, thank you so much for your service to our IT community. Today's session was indeed nice. Looking forward. Thank you so much, Nitin. See, once you understand the basics, Nitin, right, how it is happening behind the scenes, like actionable state. Trust me, hardly few people knows what Cypress does before doing any operation. So if you know this actionable state, each state plays a very important role. So when you go things in depth, you will start enjoying. If I just show you cyva.get.type, hardly 5 minutes I can spend on this and you will be fine. But understand how exactly it's happening, what are the different options we have. Try to explore much, then you will start enjoying the tool or the framework. Okay, so 2 more questions, then we will end. Rahul says, please make video on CI/CD integration, also on code coverage. Code coverage, not sure whether we can cover, but CI/CD integration is planned in the course. But again, Rahul, CI/CD is very easy. NPM, we already have this Cypress runner, right? that command you can run in Jenkins, in GitHub Actions, Circle CI, or TeamCity, Bamboo, any CI/CD server that you use. You just need to provide one command and it will run your Cypress test. This Cypress we will host on GitHub or GitLab. It will pull the code, run this Cypress CLI commands, and everything will be executed. Arjit says, thanks Mukesh, very nice session. Thank you so much Arjit for joining. Nitish is, I appreciate it, but one last question. For 5 years experience in automation testing, what would be the salary? Again, Nitish, salary is very subjective. I mentioned multiple times. It depends on your last salary actually. So let's say if you are drawing 10 lakhs, then 50% hike you can expect. So if I give you the range for 5 years experience for automation in Bangalore, for not FANG companies, obviously they have a different salary structure and all, but you should be in 12 to 20 range in 5 years. Akram, thank you sir. Thank you so much Akram. Those who are joined late, please watch the complete video and let me know if you have any questions. Please try all the things that we have tried today. I also added a small assignment that will take hardly 5 minutes. Try to do that. If you want these files, I will upload on the iNeuron portal. You can download and continue. Fine. So yeah, that's all from my side. Thank you so much for joining once again, and I will see you all tomorrow. Have a nice day. Bye bye. Good night.